Okay, back again. In this case, we're going to be looking at North Carolina Judicial Branch. The biggest difference is with the North Carolina Judicial Branch, we elect our judges. It sort of brings in a little bit of the political side of things. They're not appointed to that position. They don't serve for life. And the structure of the court system is virtually the same as the federal court system with one little minor change. At the very bottom level, we have two courts. We have the North Carolina District Court and then the North Carolina Superior Court. How to separate these two? The North Carolina District Court, we focus on specifically misdemeanor cases and civil cases where you're suing someone roughly for less than about $10,000. The Superior Court deals with felony cases, and they deal with civil suits that are in excess of $10,000. And after that, we have the North Carolina Courts of Appeal, which means if you have a case heard in Superior or District Court, you can have that case appealed to the next level, which is appellate jurisdiction. They're going to look and see if you got a fair trial or were your rights violated. If you don't like the ruling of the North Carolina Courts of Appeal, you then go to the North Carolina Supreme Court. And their job is to, once again, make sure that your rights are protected and you got a fair trial. If you don't like the outcome of that case in the North Carolina Supreme Court, you then can actually send it to the federal court system. So they are, in a sense, tied together. We call this a dual court system. You have state courts, you have federal court. As far as people that work in the North Carolina court system, we once again have the word magistrate. A magistrate is someone who can issue search warrants, arrest warrants. Also, they have bail hearings to determine whether or not a person should be released before their trial based on a certain amount of money. They can also marry people in the state. So if you don't want to go to a church wedding and have all the expenses, you can go to a magistrate and have them to get you married. They're legally allowed to do that. We have what are called district attorneys. And the district attorneys for each district in the state answers to the North Carolina Attorney General. The district attorneys are elected as well. And their job is to represent the state when the state brings a case against someone else. So if you see North Carolina versus Smith, it's the North Carolina government versus the defendant, whoever that person is, based on the violation of a state law, a state charge. We then have public defenders. Public defenders are paid through tax money, North Carolina tax money, to represent people who cannot afford to hire a lawyer. And of course, we know that if you are charged with a crime, you certainly need legal representation. So if you cannot hire one, you will be one be provided to you. May not be the best person for the job, but at the same time, it is at least some sort of representation. Now, as far as North Carolina cases that may pop up on a final exam, North Carolina versus Mann. This was a case back in 1830 where a slaveholder was charged with assaulting, beating one of his slaves. He was charged with a crime, and the North Carolina Supreme Court said no, he should not have been charged with that crime. Now think about the time period, 1830. This is a time period where slavery was an accepted practice. It was a part of our culture in a sense. It was an institution that was protected. It legitimized the fact that slavery was okay. Not exactly one of our best decisions at the North Carolina level. The other case that could pop up is Leandro versus North Carolina. This was a case where a family was accusing the North Carolina education system of not providing an adequate education for their child. And a judge agreed. Thus, what we see is a lot more state testing to legitimize the need for state funding of education. The only way that we can justify that is to show that we are making improvements in education for each student. And the only way you can do that is by showing testing results. So the Leandro case basically expanded the testing that we do at different grade levels, and of course end of grade tests in middle school and end of course tests and NC final exams that you take in high school. It's a way to justify the state is properly educating their citizens and also spending money appropriately in educating the students here in our school system. Because in North Carolina, we have what is called our Constitution, and in the North Carolina Constitution, we say that every citizen is guaranteed a right to an education. We also have what is called the North Carolina Declaration of Rights, which basically is equivalent to the U.S. Bill of Rights, which are basic rights that all citizens of the state should be granted and the state cannot infringe upon or take away. So with the North Carolina court system, no, we elect our judges. The structure of the court system is Superior Court, District Court, North Carolina Court of Appeals, and North Carolina Supreme Court. And that these individuals have to be reelected every so often, and that does bring in the political side to our judicial branch. Sometimes it can create some controversy. So, until then, the next thing we're going to be looking at is briefly talking about the civil rights movement, looking at civil rights and civil liberties, and some important developments in those two areas. So until then, see you next time.